loud, I guess. Okay. G'day, mate. What's going on? I am Wretla. You can call me Zach. And I'm recording this video because I strategically had this pimple on my head, and I just thought, wouldn't it be good to just show the entire world not only this pimple on my head, but my EP. So I put this EP out last month, and I did some, look, I don't have any socials anymore, and I'm just dying to talk about a bunch of the things on there, because I just thought they were kind of cool. It's a 5-track EP. I'm only going to talk about 3 of the tracks today. If you want to see the other 2, that's right, you have to go onto my Patreon. yeah, it's one of those things, but yeah, you know what it's like. So this video, I'm not gonna go into like all the nitty gritty technical stuff because it's boring as hell. I'll probably, look, you can take a screen grab if you really want to, of like my processing or whatever, but there's just a few things that I used in this. It's the same goes for the story actually as well, because if you want to go into, it's a concept EP, and it was all about all the good stuff, like being super lonely and like all depressed and all that sort of stuff. So look, not the most entertaining kind of topics, but if you want to dive into that, there's text somewhere. There's on the Bandcamp. I did an interview where you can kind of read into it, but this is purely entertainment purposes. And this is kind of all the stuff that I would show. I'd corner my friends and my family in a room and be like, look at all the cool things that I did. Look how much of a genius I am. So yeah, it's basically just a big me fest and a big, there's another really good word I could use right now. It doesn't really matter. So yeah, tuck in. It's pretty cool. The EP is called Im Wald, and it came out on All My Thoughts on the 18th of November, and I'm like super proud of that because All My Thoughts are dope. And I actually sent, look, you can just skip past this next bit because I've chaptered it and all that sort of stuff, but I actually sent a demo to Seb Wildblood about 8 years ago on his church, our label, and it's really, and I don't think I even got a response, and fair enough, because it was probably pretty bad, let's be honest, but it is also, it's nice to see that, there is a bit of a full circle moment, and I don't even think I've told him that, but if you're watching this, Mr. Seb Wildblood, lol, how far we've come. Anyway, let's tuck into the video. I'm going to show you some secrets, and then afterwards you can pretend like they're your own thoughts and accomplishments. So let's tuck in. Okie dokie. So this is the intro track. Please insert disc 2. Now there's a couple of cool things that I did in this, and I wrote them down because I don't have working memory. Round robining, which, if you are not aware, it's just like a sampling technique. So if you're not aware of what it is, every time you play a normal sample, you play a kick, same kick gets played each time. But with round robining, it cycles through different samples each time. So look, we're going to have a little listen to the track. It's a bit of an ambient thing, and I use Bitwig for a majority of this, so if you can probably apply a lot of this stuff to other DAWs, but Bitwig does make it a bit easier to do, just like all the nitty gritty, like this knob's going to affect this knob, which affects this when you hit a certain threshold. It's just like a modular environment, and if you don't really know much about modular stuff, it doesn't really matter. But it's just like a really good way and a really fun way to overcomplicate super simple sounds. And this is what I have here. So when you hear this, it's just a few chords, bit of ambience, just your stock standard. And also my apologies if it doesn't, there's a few plugins missing because I haven't renewed my subscription. So yeah, that sounds pretty much like it. And so on and so forth. There is, so let's go to the chords here. Now this is just made up of, what we got, 1, 2, 3 synths, 1 bass, and then a stack of like ambient bits and pieces. Stuff that I just took off my phone, stuff I took off YouTube, all that kind of good stuff, but we won't get into that yet. So yeah, simple ideas, overcomplicated. So we've got these chords over here, which is, it's made up of tones and textures. So the tones are going to be the actual notes, so like a synth note or a key note or something like that. And then I've layered them with a texture. So that'll be vinyl, key scratching, some forest sounds, that sort of stuff. So each time the sample triggers, it's going to be having a random tone and a random texture. So you kind of get this cool interplay. You get this cool interplay of sounds sort of like crossing over and stuff. And what I really, really like about this is, or like what I'm proud of, is that when I listen to it, it kind of just sounds like clouds of sound, like sort of like clashing over each other. And it just sounds really like, it just sounds, they sound like really, not complicated sounds, but they just sound like they're complex, which I guess is kind of complicated, but they're simple, complex sounds, which is something that I am really interested in. Using room recordings, because you get kind of more complicated like ambience and like overtones of different things in that sample or whatever. But I'm not going to get into that because I will chat your ear off. But so what I've got here, like, it's a super simple chord progression. We'll get a little bit further into it, so we're not going to be bored to tears. Have a nice lead coming through, which is also, it's just a copy of that chord sequence. Not chord sequence, the same instrument. And then the other thing I did was, because I don't, and I'm assuming you don't either, I don't really know how to do chords that well. I can do them on a guitar, I can't really do them on a keyboard, and I don't really know how to do the interplay of all that sort of stuff. But I don't need to use my brain because I have Scalar 2. This isn't a paid advertisement, by the way, but I just picked up a random chord progression from Scalar, and then let's just see which one it is. I used Mike Huckabee 3, probably just like a deep house kind of vibe. So I could use that, and because I didn't have a MIDI keyboard, I just had my actual keyboard, so I had to like plug around with that. So played a few of those notes, and then you've kind of got these complex harmonies with the chord progression, and then you've also got the complexity of the tones and their textures, randomizing each time that they're played, and then you get this really nice thing kind of going on. And then applying that to the lead, I just took off Scalar so I could just do a lead. And then another cool thing I did on that was I put this little, I think it was on this one, it was this trance from KHS, where is it? I think it's on this one, lead 2. I've got, I can't for the life of me even find it now. Isn't that funny? Let's have a look here. Oh no, it is actually on this one. KHS, Transgate. So let's solo that. Let's see what I did. Go up to here. Just gives it a bit of rhythm, because this whole thing is just chords and tones and moods and all that sort of stuff. And it just cuts through a little bit more. I don't know. That was like my mentality doing it. It was like one of those moments where you're like, what does this track need? And then I finally did, and I was like, Oh, thank God that's over. Oh, God. And thank God it sounds good. So yeah, I thought it sounded pretty cool. Gives it a bit of rhythm. You'll notice that it's actually at 170 BPM. It's meant to sound, I realized this afterwards, it's actually meant to be a bit of a waltz. It's like, but I wasn't really thinking straight and instead made the rhythm 170 BPM. But I guess that kind of works. And then what else have we got going here? There's a little bit of like modulation stuff. So this same concept of using like simple sounds and simple not simple sounds, like overly complicated sounds but simple ideas. This, if we go to the automation here, or maybe it's on that one. It's probably, yeah. I literally just drew these bits of automation, and this is just for the filter. And I just went, oh, probably bring it up here, bring it down there, bring it up here, bring it down there. There's nothing really like too crazy complicated going on. I just winged it basically. And the same goes for this bass, which I think has a little bit of modulation. In fact, I know it has a bit of modulation. Yeah, I did the same thing here. Let's have a listen to the bass. It's also, again, nothing crazy. Oh, it's fading in. So yeah, that's kind of all that sort of stuff. And while I find the next point on my graph, my essay here, what we got here. So the other thing as well, because everything was kind of randomized with this round robining, it meant that each render was going to be completely different. So and I'll mention this on the other videos as well, but it's kind of like controlling chaos in a way. You got to work out like kind of early on how far you want to stretch it. And I think that's kind of like a fun way of making music where you're kind of just telling the machines like a roundabout idea of what to do. I think of each track like a machine in Bitwig because it is such a modular environment. So everything can kind of like interact and randomize and kind of do all this sort of stuff. If that's kind of flying over your head, that's fine. But the core concept of this track and this EP, I guess, was to have this constantly evolving organic environment. And on top of that, it was also because I get bored really easily. So if I can like listen back to a render after I export the track and I'm like, oh, that sounds a little bit different. What did I do there? And then it's gone again. I can kind of, I don't know, it makes it a little bit more exciting to me, and it makes it like, feels like I'm jamming with a band where like, you see a jazz band, they're just like, doing their chord progressions or whatever, and someone's wailing on the guitar, and maybe they'll just like write a few chords on the whiteboard or something, and everything switches up. But it just has this, it's a bit of tension, a bit of chaos, and it makes it a bit more interesting for me. And I find that's a real, when you get to the end of a track and the end of an EP, you're like, oh wow, am I ever going to finish this? Just get this out of the way as soon as possible. But, I found some workarounds. Pardon me. What else have we got here that's kind of cool? I love just layering just with ambience. We've got these little bits here. Those little bits and pieces. It sounds crazy by itself, but like in context, I just can't hear it. And this is also the other thing. Like when I'm like, sometimes when you're making stuff, or at least when I'm making stuff, I put in details that you probably wouldn't even notice. Like, it also doesn't really matter. I feel like that's also kind of the art for me. Like, going in and then like putting in a sample there that like I'll probably forget about, or even just to put the sample in so I can like nudge my buddy and go like, oh, did you hear that? I put this sample, and when we were, remember that thing that we did that one time? That's in there. Yeah, pretty funny, huh? Yeah. And they're just glazed over. But yeah, I feel like that's kind of the art, like putting little Easter eggs and stuff. Also, not a requirement, not something I would recommend if you don't want to go into kind of neurotic state. But yeah, I guess putting Easter eggs and stuff in is really, really fun. I don't have any other points to make. I have this list of stuff here, but I guess I kind of came through it all, to be honest with you. Let's move on to the next track, because the next track, I know, it's cool. And it's also not on the Patreon, so it's just for free for all you plebs on here. Alright, now we're on to Horizon. This is a bit of a chuggier track, basically. This one has some nice little sampling bits in there. There's like a bit of a disco sample for the drums. I used I think it was like not a pan drum, like a hand drum or something like that. One of those things is like it's got like the little indentations, like maybe a steel drum, I can't remember. But it is a little bit Fortet inspired, I'm gonna say. You probably can hear it, but if you have ever listened to what's the freaking, what is it? I have forgotten the name of the album, and it's like my favorite album by Fortet. It's literally on my Apple Music as my favorite album. There Is Love in You. That is my favorite album. And I think the track is, maybe it's Love Cry. It's either like Love Cry or like, yeah, I think it's Love Cry. Let's double check that actually. Yeah, it's Love Cry. Don't want to get DMCA'd. I guess the inspiration from that was Fortet. I wanted to have like a bit of a chuggy drums, put it all in a timeline and just, vibe out a little bit, I guess. Has a horrible combination of words in a sentence, and I'm really sorry for that. But lucky I've got my notes so I don't dawdle too much. So let's just listen to it. What am I talking about? Let's just get into the meat and potatoes. And let's have a listen to, there's a nice little breakdown which kind of shows the hand drum thing I was talking about, or steel drum, whatever. So that like dun 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 is a hand drum, which I think have I got it up here? Oh yeah, let's have a little play on the keyboard. Sounds sick, if you ask me. Another thing that I did with this, look, this probably won't be very interesting if you're not a producer, but I put a lot of the samples through this, it's called Amiga. Oh no, it's Amigo. It's Amigo. But it's based after the Amigo, oh my God, the Amiga samplers from like, I think from like the 80s or 90s or something. They just have this real like 12-bit, well it is like a 12-bit sampler, but you get this bit crushing effect. It's really cool and really legit. It's a really cool and really legit way of getting that 90s sound, and I'd highly recommend it. It's like £10 or something like that. Because the sampler in Bitwig isn't that great, this Amigo sampler is super simple. It's just got like all your basic sort of things that you really need for a sampler. But the sound that you get out of it, you just get this real like graininess that I just I think, yeah, it's probably just a nostalgia trip for me, but it reminds me of those 90s house and D&B, like jungle records and stuff. It's got that really nice dirt to them, and it shaves off the low end in a really nice way. So, yeah, I don't know, like, they just has like a nice little bit of dirt, and I did that the same for this little vocal. I've got no idea where I pulled this one from, but it's probably something hot. Like, let's be honest. Let's not get into that. Please don't. Oh, don't sue me. I'm just trying to make a living. Now, I'm getting sidetracked again. Sorry. We've got all right, layering drums. All right. I guess this is a kind of cool thing, but the drums that I used in this, again, use the Amigo drums. I just kind of like chop them up. There's nothing like crazy interesting about what I've done here, but I would say that like the tip or something interesting to do is like layering old dusty samples like that, and like they're kind of crunched up, and you know, maybe they've got a bit of that like vinyl feel or like from a tape or whatever, layering that with digital. And I've been doing that a lot, and it's like I think this is just a really good artistic concept to take, or even just a good concept to take in anything that you're doing. But I think especially in art, like having contrast is a really easy way to like work out what you want to do next. So if you've got something that's black, then try something that's white. If you've got something that's dirty, try something that's clean. Like, and layering them, it like creates like, it's just an easy thing to do. It's so simple, but like, it's something that if I ever get stuck, I'm like, well, what's the opposite of that? Like, oh, true, analog, digital, oh, crazy. But it's handy, and I think it sounds really cool here. So you got the sample here. And then if we get these drums that I did, and these drums, I hate them by themselves. Just actually listening back to it, I take back what I said. I don't hate them. They're completely fine. But layered. Ooh, I don't know. That sounds cool to me. I'm into that. I'm really into that. And then I also layered these like, there's a shaker here and all that sort of stuff, but I used a snare brush. Let's get it. Ooh. And then, yeah, I mean, that's cool, whatever. This is also, pardon me, there is this track I think it was like the first one that I made from the EP, first one that was like finished, or finished, quotation mark, finished. There is something that I think when it comes to making like, something that like I've been exploring as a creative, where you trying to break out like the generic mold and kind of have like a grabby moment, or just trying to have a grabby moment. And I think that every track kind of needs to, or it doesn't need to, but like it's something that you kind of fall back on. Like, oh, you know that track and it has that random like horn sample and it just comes out of nowhere, but it just fits so well. Kind of that. It's not to be provocative, but it's also, I like playing with this idea, especially with dance music, but it gets quite hypnotic and repetitive by playing into this idea of playing with the listener and using that repetition. And I guess the game I was kind of playing here was, we've got this track and it kind of opens up into this big uplifting. It breaks into this kind of bridge. I'm not going to keep on going with it, but it breaks into this bridge and then it goes back to the original loop. We actually have one bar break, because if you're counting them all here, you'd think, okay, it's going to hit now. Let's do it. hit right here. But wait for it. One more bar. Whoa, mind blowing, I know. Crazy. Where is my aria? Now, oh dear. It kind of just goes back into a loop. Now, I think it's a cool loop, and I like the idea of just falling back on a loop and just doing it again just because it's a vibe. But I also like this idea. Look, I'm playing so many games with people who are just never going to notice this, but it repeats and it repeats, and it kind of gets to this point where you're like, is it just going to do the same thing again? And I wanted to time that moment, that very unlikely moment that someone listens to that and they go, oh, this loop is kind of going again. Is that gonna, oh, wait, what was that? And the what was that moment is this random freak out that I did with a synth. I didn't think if it was like actually with a synth. I think I just did it I did it on my trackpad, and I just had like a filter, and I just went, wee! I did that. I showed my wife, and I was like, this track is done. And it kind of was. Let's rewind. Just same thing. Ooh, what a trance! I'm so hypnotized. Ooh, but what was that? Break back into the take me in your arms, falling kind of vibe. I kind of sound like I'm just like making fun of everything I'm doing, which I kind of am, but that's the mentality I have when I'm going into this. Now, this sample, before I did anything to it, can't even break down what the sample was because it doesn't even seem to be there. Okay, it doesn't really matter. It was just me freaking out with a maybe it's on this one. Oh, it is on this one. Cool. All right, now we're up to speed. All right, what we got here? Yeah, this is all just like a trackpad. So take that off. That's all it was. Just and then yeah, I just kind of like screwed around with the filter, and then I literally screwed around with a filter, stamped it, and said, "That's it, done." So yeah, I think you kind of need to do stuff like that though. I think it's fun. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else really particularly interesting about this track that I'd like to show you, or that I'd like to show my mum. I've just got like a big bed of ambience, just tape, something I took from Victoria Park. You can hear the sirens in the background. They are everywhere here in Berlin. They are unbelievably loud. It's crazy. And then, yeah, I think that's like kind of it. Like, let's just go into this breakdown as well. Let's play that out, and I'll get that unmuted. Ooh. Wow, that sounds awful. That's actually another thing I want to show as well. I think I have them over here. Oh, it's not on this one. I'll show it in. It's on my Patreon. That's going to be so annoying. But okay, never mind. What I will say is that I did this breakdown, and I think it was one of the last times I did like a breakdown on. I hate doing breakdowns on a computer. Like I'm clicking, I'm planning it all out. It's just not the way I think. I'm just like a ball of energy, and I'm that kind of thing. So when I'm doing a breakdown, I'd much prefer to be like twiddling knobs or whatever. But what Bitwig has, which is really, really cool, is called a project modulator. And it's just like you can assign just like a one knob to like multiple parameters. So if you can assign that to like the filter of your synth, you can assign it to the reverb on a drum track, and then you can assign it to like the gate of the drums or something, whatever you want. But if you've just got a laptop and you're just kind of jamming, it just means you can just kind of like click and go, ooh, and then that's like, you kind of feel like you're jamming a little bit. So with this one, I actually did use a bit of automation for this breakdown. It's nothing too exciting or interesting, but let's just have a listen to it. See all these little like lines and stuff. There's probably more, but it's hidden. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. That's the track. There's another thing as well. I like to sort of make the endings of tracks a little bit interesting. Like this was meant to be a bit more of like a club tool or whatever, but adding like melodies and stuff to the end. And look, it's actually, as a DJ, it's actually kind of annoying when there are added elements like that, but I also want it to be a cohesive experience when you're listening to it, like the whole EP, where it's not just like, okay, we're just gonna do 32 bars of drums and we'll just wait for this one to wrap up. I kind of wanted it to be a bit more like thought out and a bit more detail. So you're kind of like looking forward to those end bits, but yeah, whatever. So that's kind of the track, and yeah, let's move on to the next one. I also just realised that I probably should mention my Patreon is literally $1 if you want videos and stuff. With some other tiers, I'm not going to get into it, but it's literally $1. I should probably mention that. Yeah, back to what I was saying. So this is Let Me Go. This is a bit of like a liquid DMB IDM freak fest. It's this track, I think. The other tracks definitely had like an emotional theme to them. I think this one has an emotional theme to it. But sometimes I just like to freak out, you know? Sometimes I just like to show off. Sometimes I like to just be like, you know what? Let's just go crazy with the drums. Not because of any other like musical reason. Sometimes it's just cool to just go a little bit crazy and show off. And I'm a little bit like that. I like to just show off unnecessarily sometimes. But I don't know, I thought these were pretty cool. So I guess like when you listen to the track, you're going to notice the drums. So let's just crack in there. Just the intro, just skipped a little bit, but we'll get into it. Look at those huge pads, sitting at 165 BPM. Okay, so that's like, we've got some oohs in here. It's the vocal here. Stretch it out, yeah. kind of get the idea. Now, later on in the track, I decided to do some little freak out stuff. So this was kind of meant to be like the pinnacle of the EP, where I've just sort of come over all of these trials and tribulations. I've made my way through this spooky forest, and I'm triumphant. I'm a real winner. When in reality, I mean, that didn't really happen. But I thought I was getting to this point. So, I mean, that's kind of all that matters. This was the story at the time. But the first thing I want to get into, because I don't want to play the whole track, first thing I want to get into is filtered coffee and ADHD medication. So it turns out this combination is deadly when it comes to getting a bit freaky with the drums. And you can see here, this is one of the first freakouts. We have a little bit of a reprise from all the beautiful strings and vocals and etherealness. Love to see what the caption comes up with that. I think maybe that's a word. But then we get to this like boom, bap, brrr, bam, 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 bam kind of thing. I'll show you. So like stuff like that, just for the sake of it. What can you learn from that? I don't know if there's really anything to learn from that, or what you can really take from that, but I think also just having a bit of fun with this sort of stuff. It doesn't always have to be serious. It doesn't always have to have purpose. Sometimes the lack of purpose is the story, and maybe that's the lack of purpose is the purpose. I don't know. Maybe I've been listening to too many like art theory like podcasts or like videos or something, but yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. And the other thing I also want to talk about is the fact that there's like kind of dissonant tones, and I think I was speaking about this earlier when I was doing this video, but talking about this kind of intersection of dissonance and tuning things by ear and getting this kind of interesting phasing and warping and kind of humanity. Some people might hear it and they might be like, "Oh, that's rough," but I don't know. To me, it just sounds interesting. There's just a lot of these. I'll go to the melodies over here. I solo that. There's a lot of stuff going on. That little. I don't know what's happening on a theory level, but something feels off, but it still feels in. Like, I don't know if that note's out, I don't know, but it kind of adds to this dissonance. And it's kind of a cool thing. Like, I feel like we're kind of coming into this phase. I mean, look, I'm just kind of trying to justify why I don't have a musical ear, a perfect musical ear, I guess. But I feel like we're coming into. I feel like when there's so much technology that can just correct everything and make everything perfect. To me, I find that the interesting stuff is in that intersection of the crossover of tones and things that aren't quite like matching up properly. I find that really satisfying. Or like, you know, music like drums and stuff being kind of falling off the grid. And I think with a lot of electronic music, it's so easy to fall into that trap. And with this track, the drums needed to be tight because it's so quick and there's just so much going on. If there's like something that's like flying out from a rhythmical perspective, I think if the rhythm's out, then there's a lot more problems to play around with. But from a tonality point of view, it sounds really, really satisfying to me. And another thing that I would like to chat about is I learned this really, really cool chopping technique, which you can hear. Let me find it. You can hear it on the vocal here. And I just used one of the warping things on Ableton. And And if you're not really familiar with Ableton or whatever, this like it has this little it just has a thing that lets you read the audio in different ways, and this one's the beats one. And what it does is it has these little divisions of time, and it divides the whatever audio you have into those little segments. So you get these little like, or if I turn that off, I can make it like a 32. Super simple way to get that really, really choppy sound. And I used it to death because why wouldn't you? I think I used it on this one. Yeah, I did. So on this one, on this sample here, let's have a listen. You can hear right at the end, it starts like chopping up. So what I did to achieve that effect was I went into the little envelope down here. I went to transient envelope. This is very interesting, I know. But I just made it so it slopes down right at the end. So you get the nice chord, and then as the time progresses, it goes slowly starts chopping up. So you can watch it here. You notice it a bit more on the last one. Ooh, wait, does that even happen on the last one? No. Okay, it's just the same division. Nonetheless, what I also like about it is that this was, I think the track was originally at like 170 or something. So I've sort of warped the sample a little bit. I've sort of squashed it a little bit to be a little bit slower. But I've also, you kind of get these kind of cool artifacts when you do that, which I find really, really satisfying. And also when, like, because this music's so, there's really not much room for swing. So when you do use this in the context of drum and bass and jungle, it works really well because that chopping effect, if it was like a swung housey beat at like 110 or like 120, those chops wouldn't really work so well. They wouldn't syncopate so well. If you don't know what syncopation is just like the I explain this all the time. Syncopation is like two things happening at the same time. So like the drum beat going boom, 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 and then a guitar line going ding, ding, ding. That's syncopation. Very, very simplified. But this little chopping effect is syncopated to these drums. So if we go over, and I'll show you. And then I'll also show you what I meant to say. It sounds pretty tight. So that was a nice little discovery that I made, which is pretty cool. What else have I written down here? Oh, I also downsampled the audio. Because I really love, you can probably hear it in this, but there is that really like 90s D&B liquid influence in this. And to achieve that, I didn't use any, I think in the other videos I was mentioning using Amigo, the sampler, and I didn't show a single image of what that looked like, looking back on that now. But what I'd used a technique that I did to get that kind of downsampled effect was I printed the audio and I just like rendered it. So say for example, I've got this audio here, and what I would do is, let's get a chop here, and let's consolidate that. I just went Command J. All right, so what have we got here? We've got this guy is at 165, cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to just chop that in half and squeeze it. You go like that. And then we're going to consolidate that. And then we're going to stretch it back out. We're going to stretch it back out. There we go. I hit the wrong one. Okay, and then we're going to bring that back out. So what this does is it's kind of like taking a screenshot of the sound. So where are we? So this is what the audio probably would have sounded like. Mind you, I've already downsampled this one, so this is going to be more downsampled. So if you have a listen to this now, that doesn't really sound that much different. Why doesn't it sound that much different? Oh, right, hang on. Okay, this is probably like proof of like what I was going to say, but it was most like roundabout. Does that sound much different to... No, it really doesn't. What about if I squashed it even more? Yeah, I could do that. We're going to squash it to like a quarter. So it basically means I've got like a quarter of the information in there. And then I'm going to stretch it out one more time. There we go. That should be doing something. I'm so annoyed if it isn't. Let's have a look. No, that's definitely not what I... Yeah, okay. Pending. Okay, this is probably a bit more of an extreme example. Look, basically, I did the most like roundabout way of downsampling these things. You do not need to do any of this. You can just use Amigo and it works so much better and it's so much more simple. And for some reason, like my brain, every time I did it, I would like forget half of the instructions or forget half of the process for some reason. I don't know. I think it's an ADHD thing. I just get lost in the source and be like, wait, okay, so I have to change the warp mode to repitch. And you have to do it in repitch mode as well. Don't do it. Don't do what I did. The drums still sound cool, regardless. But there is a little bit of like downsampled, like grunginess to them. The other thing I would say as well, and because I did this process, this was all in MIDI beforehand, and I was getting so lost. I get so lost when tracks are in MIDI, and I think I was having like a bit of a breakdown with this track because it was taking me ages. I didn't know where I wanted it to go. I didn't know what I wanted to do with it, and I think like I was really lacking. I just needed to see it. I just need to see it on this timeline properly. But when you just see like MIDI dots and all that sort of stuff, it kind of looks like you're reading the Epstein files. So you're seeing these like long trails of like black text, or it's just completely covered in black. It's kind of hard to work out what's going on. So what I did instead was I just bounced everything to audio and I could kind of visualize it. And then once you bounce everything to audio, you can do all these like cool little reverse tricks. And then you can also see where everything is lining up on the timeline, which is so important when it comes to this tighter... like that's how I moved everything in this project so that I could see where they're all landing on each other. So this is syncopation. This snare hit, that's hitting on that bass note. That bass note's hitting on this snare or kick or whatever. But just making sure that like all the emphasis points are hitting at the right points and there's no lag or something hasn't like recorded a little bit late or whatever. So bouncing to audio, pretty cool. Would highly recommend. And it also means that you just commit instead of being like, oh, should I have that chorus at 50 or 60% and how much high pass should I be? You just hear the sound for what it is. And it takes so much load off your CPU. I'm hovering at a 45 right now, which is pretty rough, but I've also got like 1,000 tracks in here for some stupid reason. Yeah, and I guess like doing these drums as well, I did some layering. So this is also a pretty common thing with this kind of music, but layering different breaks over each other. So I have this break. I don't know, that's just one. No, this break. And then we add this one. And then we... Is that actually working? Let me try that again. Okay, that one's doing like the kind of high-ish bit. I actually can't really notice it on these headphones right now, but it's doing something. And then I have this other... So the mentality when I was doing this was that I needed one drum that was going to be doing the impact, the transient sort of stuff. And then I needed another drum. I think this break 2 was meant to be like a bit more high end and just giving giving it a little bit more depth and like just a different texture. And this third one, I think this is the Revelation. I don't know what that's meant to stand for. Maybe it's the Revelation break. That was meant to be the smearing. It's not meant to be like a transient. It's just meant to be a texture. So if you just listen to that by itself. I put it through like a bit of saturation, because when you push a drum thing or like anything through a saturator, it does kind of smear and clip the signal a little bit, so you get this nice little and if I take that off, it'd probably be a bit more poppy. I think maybe I'd already processed it a bit more, but that was the intention. And the theory behind it. So when you kind of stack them on top of each other, if you just have transient on top of transient on top of transient, it doesn't really, they just kind of phase out. So if you have transient on top of a nice smear, you get this nice little drum image. The other thing as well, using phasers on drums as well is really, really cool. I've been using them a lot. If you don't know what a phaser is, it's just something that kind of does a little bit of with the sound. I think there's more to it, but whatever. It means that I chuck a phaser on snares a lot, because as the phaser is sort of like warping and moving and all that sort of stuff, it means that each snare hit is kind of changing a little bit as well. So that's kind of fun. That's something that I think I used on... If I'm a liar right now, it's going to be so annoying. I could just be getting confused with another track, but yeah, cool. I can't actually find it, but here's just another piece of information that you can use. I think I actually don't know where I put that. Anyway, it's a cool little trick and very handy if you want to make your drums sound a little bit easy, or a little bit more interesting, and you can't be bothered like modulating each snare hit or each like drum hit or whatever. Is there anything else about this track that I thought was kind of interesting to show you? Got some nice piano bits in here. And then, as always, lots of ambience. This one from when I went to Bangkok. Cool. Very cool. But yeah, that's kind of like it. I'm really, really proud of this release. It's been a really, really interesting one, because I put it out, and it's the first release that I put. Oh, actually, no, it's not the first release I put out, but it's been one of the first releases that I put out without having socials, and response that I've had from my peers and my like my friends and family has been like really, really great. From like a popularity standpoint, it's not going to pay for rent. Let's just say that. But I did kind of come over this little hump making this EP where I realized that so much of my mentality towards being a musician and what my idea of success was that in order to be a musician, I had to have these crazy streaming numbers and I had to be playing gigs all the time and I had to I just had to be the biggest, the baddest and have this like crazy social media campaigns and branding and all that sort of stuff. And I realized after making this that even though it just hasn't had the commercial success, I still feel so proud of it. And the fact that I've had like the thumbs up from my friends and family and peers and all that sort of stuff. I mean, by peers, I mean like other musicians, like other people who I like, people's opinion that I respect. I realize that that's kind of the metric that I've been aiming for this entire time. I've kind of proved myself to myself that I am capable of making something that I'm super happy with and that resonates with those closest to me and those who, you know, like those who kind of get where I'm coming from. So yeah, I think like just making music and kind of like, I'm just so grateful to be making music and to be, I know everyone's bloody grateful for, you know, like doing all the grateful dance so no one puts a target on your head, but like I am just like really grateful for the fact that music is such like a character building thing for me and it's such like a self-esteem lifter, and it can also kill my self-esteem as well, but it really like has been the biggest guidance in terms of my development as a human being. And to be able to find like genuine value in things that I wouldn't have thought I would actually find value in, like thinking like, oh yeah, you think that's great, but like, wouldn't it be good if you had like 5 million views or 5 million streams and you were like, you know, you were just like kicking back and loving it and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, that would be great and whatever, but like, I think really dipping my feet into this project and coming out with something that I'm just really, really stoked with is genuinely the reward. And I'm going to be able to look back on this and be able to like show people, like as I'm showing you, with like, yeah, just with the biggest smile on my face. So thanks for like, if you've listened to it, I hope you enjoy it. Did you get it? Did you get it? Did you get it? And yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for like watching this video. If you have any questions about anything that I've done for this series, I'd love to hear it. But other than that, like, I hope you're making music. I hope things are going well for you. It's pretty rough out there at the moment in the music industry, so I'm probably going to do some videos chatting about that pretty soon, because boy, have I seen some stuff and have I been through it. I feel ya. I know where you're coming from. So yeah, thanks for listening. Here's the rest of the track. It goes a little bit like this. Pretty cool. Pretty happy with this. I found this pin, so I'm just fiddling right now. Yikes. Ooh, actually, that's one little cool thing. I did like you can kind of do that, that that kind of like classic, like stretched out effect. If you put the track into texture mode, and then just stretch the thing out. So if we go back here, I need changes. You can make it sound horrible. So that's actually something I would have done where I like squashed the audio, took a screenshot of it, and then like stretched it back out and made that effect. But yeah, that's kind of cool. Anyway, that's it. That's the rest of it. Thanks for listening, guys, and watching. Peace.